Hello once more and welcome back to the channel, back on YouTube, doing another video here as we get into the last then 2 weeks till the 2025 college football season getting started. Here with the 2025 Big Ten predictions today. In this video, I'm going to give you my 2025 Big Ten preseason predictions. I'll predict all 18 teams, tell you where I think they're going to finish in the Big Ten. Then starting next week on Wednesday, we'll have week 1. And following that, after that, the following weeks 2 through the rest of the year, predictions will be on Thursdays. The only reason it's on Wednesday next week is because there's games on Thursday night next week within the Big Ten usually. But let's get started. 2025 Big Ten predictions right now, starting us out with the team that last year won Big Ten, won a Big Ten regular season 12-0, won the Big Ten title game, they're 13-0, then lost to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, Oregon Ducks. Why do I think Oregon's back this year? I think they can run the tables in the Big Ten. I think they can make the Big Ten. They had a season of success in the Big Ten. They know they can play in the Big Ten. And they were one of those teams one of the 4 teams in the Big Ten last year that was new, that did not have any issues when they had to travel across the country or to a different time zone. But I think this year it might be a little bit more harder for them. But I do think that Oregon stays near the top of the Big Ten this year in college football. There's a few games. There's one game on their schedule I do believe they have issues with. That game being Iowa in November, when they have to travel to Iowa, and it's hard to go to play at Iowa in November because you come away with wins. It's hard for a road team to play in Iowa City in a November game because Iowa fans are loud. Iowa has a lot of success in November, and a lot of great things happen there. And personally, I'll say this. I think that's one game on Oregon's schedule you can circle and say it's going to be tough for them to win. But I think they're going to have just as good a season as they did last year. I think they even make it back to the college football playoff. Maybe this year, not exactly get a first-round bye, but I do think they win to the Big Ten this year and make it back as one of the teams that made it back last year. So give me the Ducks here at number 1 to start us out. Number 2, we're going to go to Columbus, Ohio, the Buckeyes. Why say Buckeyes? The team that won the national championship last year. Buckeyes last year finished 4th in the Big Ten, and were the final and finished and were 10-2. They didn't have to play at home against Tennessee in the first round in the playoff. They won that game. They won the Rose Bowl. Slaughtered Oregon after losing to them by point in Eugene early on in the year last year. Ohio State this year, I think you can say this. One thing I'm going to say about Ohio State, one of the games on their schedule that's going to be tough is the Penn State game. That's going to be a game that's going to be tough. One of that game, I think, for Penn State and Ohio State this year will be in Indianapolis in the Big Ten Championship again this year, just like last year it was. But overall, Ohio State's one of those teams I think they're going to build on it. They got a new quarterback, a true freshman I saw they named starting quarterback. But Ohio State, I don't think they're going to have any big issues or any major issues. We're just going to see what happens with them throughout the year. But I do think Ohio State finishes number 2 in the Big Ten and gets to the Big Ten championship game this season. Also, make the college football playoff as well, being one of 2 teams maybe. Not sure if the Big Ten gets 4 in, but maybe 3. We'll have to wait and see. But give me the Buckeyes here as the number 2 team to start the year in my preseason predictions. Next up, number 3 team I'm putting up here, Penn State. Now, like I said, Penn State, the only thing talking about Penn State, why do I have them at number 3? Personally, that matchup with Ohio State on the schedule, winner of that game goes to Indianapolis for sure. But I do think they match up with Oregon again, just like last year. And the only reason I think I'm putting Penn State at number 3 is because I think Ohio State gets the better advantage this year against Penn State. But that's something to look at down the stretch overall. Penn State, they made the playoff last year. They made it all the way to the semifinals, but cannot get past Notre Dame. Unfortunately, that was the toughest game for them last year. They did lose that one. And I think, looking at that on paper, Notre Dame just outplayed Penn State. Penn State had a chance. Just too many mistakes overall for Penn State last year in that matchup. And do I think they make it back to the playoffs? I do think they get there, possibly, If potentially 3 teams in the Big Ten make it this year, at the moment, if you ask me, I'd say there's a 75% chance before the season starts. And those chances could go down, I believe, personally, overall, as the season gets going in full force. But Penn State, though, is my number 3 team I like in the Big Ten to start the 2025 season. So get into the Nittany Lions at number 3 in my preseason picks. Next up, going a little bit interesting one for number 4. I'm going with the UC Trojans, a team that struggled last year in the Big Ten in their first year. They finished 10th in the Big Ten in their first year overall. But looking at USC, I think this year they actually make a move to get from 10 and improve to get to number 4. But I do think there's going to be some teams that they're going to have to compete against this year. It's going to be hard for this team in USC to make it. I think the number one thing they have to do is play well. They have to learn how to manage those cross-country trips, just like they did unlike last year when they had issues when they went to Michigan, of course. I believe this year they do have to go to Illinois, though, and Champaign, and so that's going to be a tough trip. What's it going down to Champaign and play if you're from Southern California? I wouldn't want to be that USC team. That's going to be a game USC is going to want to not even show up for, but they might, and they would play it. But overall, I'd look at this team. USC, I think, is going to be a better team than last year, apparently. We'll have to wait and see how it looks. Overall, looking at our schedule, looks a little easy, but we'll have to wait and see. But put me at USC as number 4 team in my predictions for the preseason. Next up, number 5 team. Yeah, I'm going to take the number 5 team and put them out there. Team that I think is going to surprise people. Nebraska. Finished right behind USC last year. Where do the Huskers stack up? Overall, are they one of those teams that plays well? Or one of those teams that plays good? Overall, I personally think Nebraska is going to be one of those teams that comes into the Big Ten this year. They have a quarterback who's entering his 3rd year, I think, or 2nd year for the quarterback for Nebraska. He's pretty good. Nebraska, I've seen some videos of their team. I think their team's going to be pretty interesting to see. This team, Nebraska and Iowa, 2 Midwest teams in the West, they're going to be 2 of the teams they're going to be fighting for 5, 6, and then 7 and 8 will be up for grabs with other teams in the mix. But overall, Nebraska, I think, is going to be a number 5 team in the Big Ten here at this point in time. So give me the Huskers at number 5. Next up, we're going to go with the team that made the playoffs last year, the Indiana Hoosiers. How about them? Is Indiana back this year? I'm not so sure what Indiana does and what they look like on paper. But the Hoosiers to me look like a team. They can play well. They had a coach in his first year last year that led them to 11-1. Lost a game to Notre Dame in the playoff in-state matchup. Unfortunately, I don't think that happens this year. I think Indiana falls back on it. I think they fall to number 6 in the Big Ten out of the top 10 in the team conference, but no playoff for them this year. I think they have down there. I think they win maybe 8, 9 games. So give me Indiana at number 6 early on in this one. And next up, we're going to go to my Iowa Hawkeyes. And yes, I think Iowa does stack up their team. It's going to be a tough year to have a new quarterback in Gronkowski out of transfer in from South Dakota State. It's going to be an interesting team in Iowa. The question is, the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, who's going to contribute? Will it be the defense? I don't know. I'm not sure what to think. Looking at the Iowa schedule, their schedule does get tough. Early on, they do have Indiana come to town. They have Penn State come to town. They have Oregon. 3 of the 4 teams that made the playoffs in the Big Ten. The only team that don't play this year, Ohio State. But the 3 of the 4 teams that made the playoffs in the Big Ten last year all come to Iowa City. All going to be tough. I would think Iowa has a chance maybe to win 1 out of 3 of those. Maybe get 2, possibly. 3 would be fun to see, but I don't think it happens. But give me the Hawkeyes here as a team that finishes 7th in the Big Ten this year, early on. Next up, we're going to go to Illinois next. Put them at number 8. Yeah, why Illinois at number 8? Well, our team last year, they finished in the top 6 in the Big Ten, top 8 teams. But the reason I think Illinois drops back a few spots this year, I'm not so sure what Illinois has. Who are they? What are they? Are they a good team? We'll see. Illinois is going to be one of those teams. They have USC that comes down. USC is going to be the toughest matchup for them overall. The rest of their schedule, I'm not sure how it looks, but I do think Illinois can play well. I don't think Illinois is going to be one of those teams that wins 6 to 8 games this year overall. But I do think they're going to finish at 8th in the Big Ten at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. Anything can change as we get into this season. Next up, I'm going to pick up a team in the Washington Huskies. Number 9 in Big Ten. Number 9. Washington Huskies. I think this year, after last year's season, they're going to have a tough year in Washington. Last year, they finished 6-6. I believe they did win a bowl game, though. They made a bowl game, and I think they did win that, possibly. But looking at Washington this year, I think this year's going to be a year for another year of transition. After 6-6 last year, they lost a lot of road games on the road, traveling to the different time zones. They had the rough patch of it. I think this year's going to be a little bit of the same for them. Another year of transition. I understand it's going to take a while for teams to transition. Oregon has transitioned pretty well, and that's why I picked Oregon to be number 1. But for Washington, I picked them at the bottom of the top half of the Big Ten at number 9 for the reason I think it's going to be another year of transition for Washington. I think they maybe have one more year after this year of transition before they finally start winning games. But overall, give me Washington as my number 9 seed, number 9 team in the conference to start the year. Next up, we're going number 10 seed, number 10 team in the conference, Michigan, a team that beat Ohio State. One thing for Michigan this year going in that I do think is going to be troublesome for Michigan is the punishment of cheating, the sign stealing scandals, and the question of can they beat Ohio State for a 5th straight year. I think you could toss some of that stuff out the window and say Michigan's going to have a tough year with all the sign stealing scandal and the punishments they get. It's going to be a long 5 years, half a decade almost. Unfortunately, I do think Michigan finished just 10th this year for that reason, and I think they fall back a bit because of it. So they give me Michigan at number 10 at the moment. Next up, number 11. We're going with Minnesota. Minnesota, number 11 team in the Big Ten this year for my preseason. What do I think Minnesota's number 11 in the Big Ten to start the year out, or to be here to start the year? I'm not so sure what Minnesota is. I saw that Minnesota's going to be interesting. Last year they were an interesting team. This year I think Minnesota's going to be very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. How will they do it? What will they do? How do they win games? I'm not sure. Overall, it's just how I think Minnesota clicks on paper. But I think Minnesota's going to have an interesting season. But I do think they're going to be finishing 11th in the Big Ten overall. Next up, the number 12 team. I'm picking a team that was at the bottom last year, Wisconsin. They're in the bottom half of the Big Ten. Overall, for Wisconsin, they're one of those teams I think this year, after having a bad year last year, they're going to have another year with a second-year head coach, and they're going to have to come in and play well, I think. I think the one thing that Wisconsin's going to have to do is play hard. I think they do move up a bit in the Big Ten, and I think they have a better year than they did last year, of course. But overall, it's going to be one of those years to see where Wisconsin stacks up in the Big Ten, just like Minnesota. Can they play in the type of football that the rest of the Big Ten can? Yeah, I think they will. Eventually. Maybe this year they get better, but I do think Wisconsin, though, this year makes a bowl game, at least. Gets a win in the bowl game. We'll have to wait and see, though. Next up, the 13th team of the Big Ten, I think. First one, we're going to go to Rutgers, the birthplace of college football. Now, why do I have Rutgers in 13th? Who knows? The bottom half of the Big Ten is always hard to predict. And Rutgers, they're one of those teams I think they're going to have an interesting season. Possibly, maybe, have a year. I think Rutgers is going to be one of those teams that wins 4 to 6 games, possibly maybe less, maybe a little bit more. It depends on how they play football. Depends how good they are. This is one of the reasons I think they're going to finish the bottom half of the top of half of the bottom half of the Big Ten this year, finishing in 13th in the Big Ten. Next up, we're going to Michigan State. Yeah, Michigan State, we're going to put them 3 spots back of their in-state rivals of Michigan in 14th in the Big Ten. What do I think this team finishes 14th overall? This team's one of those teams in Michigan State. They can play well when they need to. And if they want to play well, they do play well. They're one of those teams I think that can play, they can focus, they can beat you, they can upset teams at times, and that's what Michigan State does. That's why I do think Michigan State is one of those teams this year that makes a better plays and does much better. But we'll have to wait and see. This is the only reason I'm putting them in 14th. Up next, 15th team, I'm going with the Bruins of UCLA at 15. To start us with the Final Four teams. Bruins, 15th team in the Big Ten this year. Another team on the West Coast. Another year for transition. Last year did well. Won 6 games, I think. They did not play well last year. They played okay. I did see their game where they played Iowa and won 20-17 against Iowa at home. And all the other Big Ten teams went to the Rose Bowl and beat them. Because Indiana went to beat them. Minnesota went there and beat them. And personally, I don't know how good UCLA can be. But we'll have to wait and see. UCLA can be one of those teams I think they're going to be a sleeper team, maybe. Might be one of those teams. Maybe they don't finish 15th. Maybe they finish in the top 12. We'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be tough. But I think UCLA finishes 15th this year. 16th, I think Purdue transitions. Purdue comes back. I think Purdue Boilermakers, they make a run this year in the Big Ten. After having a rough year a year ago with 1 win, 11 losses almost. I think Purdue comes here, gets 2 more wins this year, maybe wins 3. And they're going to be one of those teams I think that's going to stack up with the bottom half where it's going to be fighting to see who can win 1 or more games. That's why I think Purdue moves up this year. Though. Following them, Northwestern, who had 4 wins last year. Wildcats, they finished 16th, I believe. Last year in Big Ten. Overall this year, I think they possibly lose and drop back a few more. Maybe they get the same record as they did last year. Maybe they finish tied with Purdue. But overall, Northwestern's one of those teams I think is going to have an interesting season, as I think they finished 17th. Last but not least, Maryland, the final team of the 18 teams in the Big Ten. One of the best conferences of college football. Maryland, they're one of those teams I'm not sure what I think about Maryland's schedule. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the schedules yet. But as we go into that next week, that's going to be something to talk about next week. But overall, I think Maryland's a better team this year. Possibly we'll have to wait and see. Overall, I think Maryland can have a better season. But I do think they finish at the bottom of the Big Ten. So there you go. 2025 Big Ten preseason predictions. All 18 teams right there. Hope you all enjoyed. Next Wednesday, back here. Week 1 predictions for the Big Ten season. As we're back here. Top below who you think out of the 18 teams in the Big Ten, who you think will be the top 3? Or where your favorite team sits at the moment? Where you think they can finish? I look forward to reading those comments. That being said, hope everyone enjoys. I'll see you next week, Wednesday, Week 1 predictions for the Big Ten. Don't forget, watch, like, subscribe. Tell your friends to do the same if they've not done so yet already. Also, don't forget, hit that notification button below so you know when there's a new video. With that being said, have a good day. Stay safe and peace out. I'll see you right back here next Wednesday, Week 1 Big Ten predictions. See you then, everyone. Bye for now. Stay safe and peace out. Bye.